Hello and welcome to Tokyo Inklings. My name is CY. You can find me on my website at tokyostationpens.com, on Instagram and TikTok at tokyostationpens, and on Twitter at tokyostationmnh.
And my name is Jacob. I'm Fudefan on Instagram and on Twitter, and have a blog at fudefan.com.
And welcome. This is episode 45, I believe. Is this 45? And we've just got a jam-packed episode today. Not a lot of time. So let's just get right into it. Maybe bring back the reviews next time. But, let's get right into it this time. We've got some follow-ups on tips because, we did the live show last time. And I think that went pretty well. But we didn't really actually get to talk about all of the interesting things that we learned after we did the show. Jacob, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I have a list of small, miscellaneous tips-related topics I wanted to talk about. So each of them probably going to be fairly short, but this is more of a rapid-fire list, I think. But starting with Ohashido. So I talked to Mr. Uehara at Ohashido, and just for fun, I asked him if he had seen Sailor's 110th anniversary pens, and if he had any opinions about that. And he was laughing like Shogun. I mean, there's clearly some inspiration here, but he's very dependent on Sailor.
Right.
So there's only so much he can do about that. And that's when it got interesting, right? Because he was talking about how he's using Sailor nibs. We know he's using Sailor nibs. But these are not, your usual 21K standard Sailor nibs, right? So not only does he have special engraving, not only are they 14K, but he told me, I read this before, but he confirmed to me that these, even today, he has Sailor soft nibs. So we've talked before about how Sailor stopped selling pens with soft nibs probably decades ago. It's hard to say exactly when they stopped. But they still make them. They make them for Ohashido.
Oh, that's interesting. That's wild, actually. That's
Yeah, it is. It is.
Why don't they put them out on the market? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's hard to say. And by the way, related to that, I actually did get an Ohashido pen, but I think we have such a jam-packed episode, so I'll talk more about that next time. But I thought that point was very interesting, that the 14K soft nibs are very much alive. Not just the small ones, but the large 14K soft nibs.
Does he have large nibs? Because I've only seen small nibs on his pens.
I have one with a large nib in my hand right now.
Ohashido.
Yes.
Oh, that's very, very interesting. And is it actually soft? $1 million question.
I think this is more of a placebo thing. If you tell yourself it's soft, then sure it's soft.
Okay.
And the reason why they're still soft nibs is that he said he would have to change his tooling, which I thought was a kind of strange.
Aren't they all the same?
Well, no, but because he said, I asked him what is the difference between the hard and the soft nibs, and he said that one difference is that the soft ones are thinner.
Oh, but it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Right, and also even today, Ohashido pens are handmade, and he has this foot pedal rokuro, right? Yeah. So if you make them by hand, then surely you there's not so much.
Right.
Tooling. Right. So it was a kind of strange idea. I think he just liked the idea of being able to sell soft nibs. That's my suspicion.
Yeah, I do think that there is this kind of older Japanese I guess attitude of, I have to change all of my tools if I want to make it half a millimeter shorter, which obviously is not true, but they like to tell themselves that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting because I also recently acquired a Sailor nib, which, we've covered this before, but some of the older Sailor nibs don't have nib grave stamp on them.
Right, yeah.
And so I got one of those, and I kind of just expected it to be a generic, I don't know, medium or whatever. This looks like a mini zoom nib. So it's very, very small, but it's clearly ground to what would have been the older style zoom nib. So I'm very excited to show you this next time, so we can compare the soft nibs to this mini unmarked zoom nib.
For sure.
Yeah. Maybe have you take some photos of that too.
Yeah, Sounds like a good idea. Okay, so let's get on to my next rapid fire topic.
Rapid
So
fire
I
away.
did go to Nagahara, as you know, because I got a Pilot 823
Yeah.
that I wanted him to grind. And first I asked him if he could do a Waverly, and he said, sure, I can do a Waverly. Then he thought about it for a while, and then he said, I could do that, but it will end up just being a mini-fude.
Yeah.
And I think what he means by that is that, this sailor-footed demand, it's kind of sharp bend, right? While if you look at Pilot's Waverly, there's this curvature that I think...
That's right.
I think what he's saying is it's hard to create that curvature.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was interesting. Another thing about Nagahara was that someone, I think on Slack or on Instagram, asked me if Nagahara has any plans to attend any pen shows outside Japan next year. So I asked him about that, and he said he would really like to, especially US, especially San Francisco, he mentioned, but there are no concrete plans at this time, and because of all the uncertainty with Japan's complicated re-entry rules. So he wants to, but we don't know yet if that's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll talk about this later as well. But when we talked to Stylo, I had a separate conversation with them later, and they were all really into hey, pen show. They're like, oh, are you gonna go? Are you gonna set up a table? I'm like, I'm thinking about it. I need to think about how much I need to bring over. But it seems that all of these vendors are really trying to gun for at least San Francisco next year. DC is probably a no because it's kind of far away as well. But at least SF they're talking about internally as well.
Yeah, there are two things there, right? So it's probably more easier for them to get to San Francisco. The other thing is, and there were at least two people mentioning this to me, that the people who attend the San Francisco Pen Show, they are these, tech gazillionaires that come that buy. Right. They're very generous, and they buy a lot more than your normal Japanese pen show attendee.
Yeah. I mean, that was the impression that we got as well, right? Like that the people who attend Japanese pen shows are kind of cheap.
They're kind of cheap, yeah.
Yeah, but it's also a separate crowd. Again, it's like more of the ink and kind of fun artsy crowd rather than the collector crowd. So far, for now, hopefully we're gonna have a change in that, at least parts of that, in the future. But they're hard at work doing that.
Right.
All right, Mori. So, tell us about Mori.
Mori, yes. So I asked him about his upcoming platinum pen plans, and he said, I think we covered this on the previous episode, but he said that he's working on a platinum president for the 4th anniversary of his pen clinic, which is interesting because supposedly the president is being discontinued. Although there's no announcement as far as I can see in Japanese, but Platinum is famously bad at any kind of press communication. But the other pen he's working on is the 3776, which is next year's Wagner pen. And what's interesting about that one is that he's already saying that this is going to be a niche stud, so those so-called shaper cut grooves. He said on a blog in the recent past, or maybe not recent past, but he said that he's not going to do those pens anymore because he's had so many problems with niche style pens in particular, cracking the barrel, cracking. Right. So I asked him about that. So what has changed your mind? And he said that Platinum's QC has become much better very recently, and the reason for that is that Platinum President Nakata's son has apparently become in charge of QC, and he has modernized processes and manufacturing, and it's very different from before, he's saying, and quality is better.
So that actually corresponds to what Nagahara was saying previously, where he was saying, Nakata Shato has put a lot of effort into decreasing costs and improving processes, right? So
he's done that by delegating it to his son.
I mean, that's good because his son was the president of Nakaya, right?
Was he? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I think it was the son's kind of passion project to bring up Nakaya. So I think it's super interesting what they're going to do.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a few more short topics. So whenever I go to tips or whenever I meet Endo-san of Eboya, I ask him the very same question, which is, when are you coming out with a Japanese-style Inkidome eyedropper?
He said soon, like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, he keeps saying soon, but this time it was slightly different, right? He said that, it's difficult, we are trying, and there's no timeline for it anymore. So I got the impression that they have tried. In fact, I remember last year he even showed me on his cell phone photos of prototypes.
Right.
I think it didn't work quite as well as he thought. So now there's no timeline for it anymore. But
do they work? I mean, like the Inkidomes, like, do they actually work that well to begin with?
I'm not sure about that, but the previous ones, they're all done by Kanesaki-san, right? And Kanesaki-san, he was at the pen show, so I went over to Kanesaki-san, who was just a few meters away. I talked to him. So I met him before at Wagner, so I ended up talking to him again. And I asked him about Inkidome eyedroppers, and I mean, he can do them in his sleep, right? That is his thing. He's an expert. He's the Inkidome eyedropper guy.
Right.
And I asked him, could you, for example, convert like a Pilot Custom Urushi to an Inkidome Japanese eyedropper? And he said, yeah, sure. I mean, I didn't ask what the price would be because I didn't want to know the answer. but if you're willing to pay for it, then Kanesaki-san is your guy. He can do that.
Do you think he would just rebuild the pen?
I don't know.
He might just rebuild the pen, right?
Yeah.
Because there's also the question of the section, which has the metal threads.
Right.
Yeah, and that might be cheating, though, right? That's cheating, surely, a little bit.
But it's definitely possible that he would do that, and we know that. I mean, we talked about Kanesaki-san before, and we said that he can replace any part on a pen, right? As long as you're paying him, right? He can do anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's very talented, but he knows his worth, and he's charging accordingly. So That's for sure. A few more minor things. Oh, so after the first day of tips, I did an Instagram post of this Bongbox Supernova pen and also Kobayashi's Desmo with Makie.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, a lot of people asked me, how can you buy these Kobayashi Makie pens? I kind of knew the answer, but I still went back to Kobayashi on Sunday and asked him. I said, a lot of people are asking me how to buy these pens. Do you have any plans to sell these online? And his answer was, no, because we think Pilot won't be happy with us if we do that. And I think that's a nice segue to the next topic, your topic, Style Art, because they have a different view on that.
Yeah, so Style Art does pens, and very famously they use Pilot nibs. And so I think you asked them how Pilot felt about it. Yeah. And apparently, like the Pilot guys actually, some Pilot people were in attendance at the show. They weren't, uniformed. They weren't representing Pilot, but they went over to Style Art's table, and they're like, "Wow, this is incredible! Like, you make this all by yourself?" And it appeared that they were actually impressed with Style Art's quality, and especially when it came to the Capless. Especially, they were surprised that he removed the clip and rebuilt the Capless. And they're like, wow, this is really difficult to do. Like, are you doing this yourself? And so I think that's kind of a interesting thing. The difference is that Style Art is not building it on Pilot pens, right? He's actually turning the pens by himself. So maybe that's a difference.
Yeah, that's what he said, that he's actually buying the pens from Pilot. I'm not sure if he's getting some kind of wholesale price or if he's just buying it retail, but he's buying the pens and he's basically just throwing away everything but the nib section, right? And he's building a pen around that section.
Yeah, I believe he does not get it wholesale. I think he gets it retail. So that's probably why they're okay with it. Whereas Kobayashi Bunkan, obviously, they are retailers, so they get at the discounted wholesale price, right?
What's interesting about that is that a few years ago, Stylo Art sold pens not just with pilot nibs, but with platinum nibs and sailor nibs. And I had to remind him about that because he had even forgotten about that. But I remember going to this website and you could choose, do you want a pilot nib, do you want a platinum nib, or do you want a sailor nib? And he said he stopped that and he said pilot's quality is just better than the two others.
I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
He's absolutely correct. It's just not even comparable, right? I did manage to talk to him a bit afterwards, and I bought a pen from him. I won't really discuss it on the show today, but we were talking, and I kind of showed him my stack nibs as well, and he was very surprised that there were people outside of Sailor doing stack nibs. So was it just me, or was he very he was like a very excited kind of a Genki character, right?
He was very friendly and he loved to chat. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, he was super, super chatty. He got super excited. He's like, "Oh, you're doing this on your own?" He said, "So are you gonna have a table next year?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how much I need to actually prepare. I have to buy the stuff, get the table. But he was super excited, and he actually introduced me to this other guy who was a volunteer at the show, who had the best name. I'm gonna send it to you later, but his name is Hikarimaru-san. And
okay.
I mean, he kind of introduced me to him, and he said, "Hey, this guy is a guy who's making pen bodies, but he doesn't make nibs and he doesn't do nibs. So why don't you get together and maybe you can, work with him and collaborate and do something cool together." So it felt like he was very, very happy to help kind of introduce new blood into the scene, which I think is quite refreshing. It's very quite nice of somebody who's, been doing it for quite a long time to really have such a keen interest in, I guess, younger people and what they want to do in the scene. Because I think more often than not, it's really the opposite. It's like, "Oh, get off my lawn. I'm you don't have a fishing vest, then you can't come into my show," right? So I thought that was very, very nice of him.
Yeah, and kind of related to that, I get the impression that some of these artists and pen makers that we have talked to, some of them are kind of semi-retired. They're doing it for fun, and for that reason, they don't really see themselves as bitter rivals. They are quite friendly, and they just enjoy having a good chat and make sure that people are having a good time.
Yeah, for sure. I did really appreciate him, and I bought. Okay, I said I was gonna bring it up. I'll bring it up anyways. I bought one of his pens. I think it's like a Piccolo, but it's not. It's one of the Urushi finishes with Rodin. I think they called it Stardust. In the Shirane model, and I have to say, the finish is very, very good. It's extremely well done. The threads, everything is extremely well done. And I bought it with a music nib, and if you buy music nibs at retail, it costs more. But he didn't charge me any extra for the music nib.
Oh, really? That's nice.
So I got in the size 10. But yeah, it's a very good pen. One of the things that happened while I was there actually is, they have the box of Urushi pens, right? And then they have the Makie stuff. I asked to see some of the Makie stuff, so she brought the box over, and then once we're done, they were putting it away, and they dropped the entire tray of Makie pens on the floor.
No.
And there was there was him, I think his wife, there's me, there's Akane, and we were all like, "Holy, oh my goodness!" It was crazy, and so they're picking up all the pens, and I felt so bad because I asked them to show me some stuff, right? So I felt really bad. And then for about 15 minutes, they lost one of the pens. We couldn't find the pen, and it was the most expensive one.
Oh no.
It was like $3,000 something. And I was like, oh my god, I hope we're able to find it. So we're like scrambling around, looking under the tables and stuff like that. Yeah, eventually we did find it, so thank goodness for that. But these people, they were just so nice and so helpful. Even though after they dropped the pen tray, they're like, oh no, don't worry about it. We're gonna take care of it. And so they were just so incredibly nice, and yeah, nothing but good things to say about them.
Yeah, I would also say if you are to drop a $3,000 pen on the floor at a pen show, this is the country and the pen show where you should do that, right? Because you're gonna get your pen back
Yeah,
one way or
yeah,
another.
for sure. Um, I think that's most of the follow up. We do want to, I think, talk a little bit about the blog post that you mentioned, that you uploaded, I think last week, about Furuta and Kubo, because I think that was a very, very good post.
So we talked about Furuta during the live show, right? So
Yeah.
there's this retired Jietai officer. I'm not sure what his rank was, but he's retired, and for the last year or so, he's been making pens at the same, and has also been like training with and helping Kubo, who is this 92-year-old guy who's been making nibs and repairing pens his whole life. And I didn't find, at least not in English, that much information about Kubo. I thought maybe I should write, especially not about Furuta. I thought I would just wanted to write a bit about that. Yes, one thing before I talk about Kubo and Furuta. What's always fascinating to me is that when you search for a somewhat kind of obscure topic related to Japanese fountain pens in English, you always find posts on Fountain Pen Network, but they are always at least 10 years old. It's like they had this amazing community like a decade ago with people who knew everything, but now they have all disappeared somehow.
But that was the era of like Ross Stutler, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think what happened was like I think there was some like moderator like issues around that time on Fountain Pen Network. So I think there was like a huge exodus, and then they all moved to like FP Geeks or something. Not really sure about the history of that, but I do know that there was some drama around that community. So that's probably why the information has all of a sudden dried up.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. So when I started looking a little bit into Kubo, I realized that he has, we know that he's made some pretty interesting nibs. We talked about his 4-tine music nib in the past, but that's far from his most extreme nib. He is the OG crazy nib guy, right? He has, for example, made a Namiki Emperor size nib in 24K pure gold. And that's not even that is the most craziest one. He's also made what he calls a size 100, so twice the surface area nib. Those are very rare as far as I understand, but they do exist.
Jacob,
I'd like to see one.
Jacob, I went to Tohma today actually, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I just sent you 2 pictures. So on the right, you have a pen. It's fine.
Right.
But then on the left, that's the pen, the Tohma, an Emperor size 50, a Kona King size, and an Agatha Christie. So look at the size of that nib. That's a Kubo nib.
It looks like a prop. It looks like something you use for decoration, right?
Yeah. I was in the shop and I was like, this thing is ridiculous. It's larger than my fingers. Like, larger than 2 of my fingers together.
Yeah, I wonder what the raw material cost of that nib is.
Yeah, we'll put it on the show notes, but it's funny. It's a 14K nib. There's a funny story that I don't want to tell on the show, but I'll tell you afterwards.
Sure. Yes, so So I wrote about Kubo and his various apprentices, including Tohma and Iwase. Well, Iwase is not apprentice in the same way. I think he's more of a customer, but then also Furuta, as we talked about, and I see now on Furuta's website he had some pens for sale. They're all sold out now, so I'm not sure if I had something to do with that. But I mean, his pens, we talked about them on the live show. He has these beautiful pens, including these hand-carved ebonite pens. So he's really, I'm looking forward to see more of what he's doing. I mean, he's really just started out, right? He just done this for 1 year, and he's only now getting into making his own nibs. Apparently he's working with Kubo on a more like softer type of a large nib, so I'm looking forward to see what comes out of that.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna save this for next time. But I asked him about why he was making these like ridiculous pens instead of like normal size. He gave me a pretty interesting answer.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. So listeners, you gotta wait until next time to see. All right. Next topic is, I guess, more of a personal corner. Jacob, we talked on the show about me getting that Solitaire Douai Burgundy in the Vermeer cap, and so I got that pen. There was actually another gold Vermeer, fully Vermeer 146 that was like a bit over $1,000 that I really wanted, but I thought at the time it was too expensive. So what do? We go on auctions, we go on Yahoo Auctions, and then I saw this crazy deal for this Solitaire Mont Blanc. And without looking at it, I just, I clicked bid. I bid for like $530 or something. And it was like the lowest bid at the time that I could make. And I kind of just left it. I was like, okay, if I get it, I get it. If I don't get it, I don't get it. It's, $530. That's like less than 146 at retail, right? Retail is like $600.
Right.
And to my surprise, I won the bid.
Really? For that price? So this is like 70,000 yen-ish?
No, it was 53,000 yen.
Okay, that's very good.
So I'm like, all right then, I have a new Mont Blanc. But what I didn't realize is that there was damage on the cap. So after I won it, I checked the description again, and they did say that it said hoshi ga tsubureteru, which means it's been it's been damaged, but it didn't actually show how damaged it was. Like damage could be like, in Japan, if there's like a dust mark on it, it's like, oh yeah, it's been damaged, right?
Right.
So I wasn't sure, like, all right, what does that mean? And on the description, right, what it had was that it's owned by this collector, this European collector who takes care of his pen, so it's in otherwise good condition. And I'm just now sending you a close up of the picture that they put on the auction.
Well, it looks like there's a little bit like a crater there.
Right. And then now I'm going to send to you what it actually looked like.
They picked a good angle from the photo.
There was a hole in the finial. Straight through the star, like somebody took like a toothpick and went boom. Obviously, toothpick wouldn't be able to do this damage, but it was like straight through. And I was like, okay, there's some damage. I'll probably fix it through like kintsugi kind of concept. At first, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to cover it with gold. But then halfway through, I decided to change my mind. And I wrote a Instagram post about this. But I changed my mind. I said, what if I try to do rankaku nuri? Because rankaku nuri is actually one of the hardest styles of Japanese lacquer. And I don't want to use the word urushi here because I did not use urushi lacquer. I used cashew lacquer, which is, for all intents and purposes, almost exactly the same in terms of property. It just cures differently. So I use cashew lacquer. It's very difficult because, first of all, you have to get the shells. You have to prepare the shells. So what most people don't, bother to realize is that an egg, once you crack it, there's the outer shell, and there's actually an inner membrane. And if you do nankak without removing the inner membrane, then the outer shell will fall off, and you'll just have an inner membrane there, which is colorless. So you have to actually remove that. So the preparation of nankak involves like removing this stuff.
And this, by the way, is the single biggest reason why Hiroko doesn't really want to do rankaka. It's not so much placing the like shards in the urushi, it's preparing them.
It is a pain in the butt because you cannot see it. And they're so sticky, But fortunately for me, I actually prepared an entire cup, I think 2 years ago, and I just never did anything with it. I was like, okay, I have these eggs, and why don't I do them? And then I realized, actually people use quail eggs, because quail eggs are much thinner, and these chicken eggs that I have are so thick that if I do nankak as is, I'm gonna have just the star that's elevated. So I took my carving tools, I carved out parts of the star, the snow cap, what you call it. And then I embedded the shells, and then I did several, I think three layers of black cashew lacquer, 1 layer of transparent lacquer, and then I buffed it down and I polished it. So I think the end product I'm fairly happy with. I'm fairly satisfied with this. But this was the first time that I did nankak and it was a blast, Jacob. This was very, very fun.
Yeah, I saw your Instagram post. The end result looks great. So is this something you're gonna start doing more of now?
I don't think I'll actively offer it. If somebody wants to, repair something, I might be able to do that.
Yeah.
But it is a pain in the butt to do. And so this pen, it's just a black body, right? And I was thinking, how cool would it be if I had the piston knob done in nankak
right,
and then the body done in ishime. So, and then when I posted, Hiroko kind of sent me a comment. She's like, "Oh, sugoi ne." She's like, "Oh yeah, very impressive that you were able to do this." And I said, "Yeah, I was actually thinking for the piston knob to ask you to help me." And her answer to me was, "Nah, you can do it by yourself." She's like, "You're good enough to do it by yourself now. Why don't you try and do it by yourself?" Which was like, okay, she just does not want to do it.
If she doesn't want to do something, she says so. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, for sure.
Just strong opinions about that. Yeah.
It was also funny, like just the way she said. She's like, "Oh yeah, you're good enough to do it by yourself. Just do it by yourself." And I'm like, I really don't want to.
Yeah.
So, so that's that. But yeah, I found this spot on my balcony, where the natural sunlight is, and my goodness, the picture qualities are totally different from my poorly lit, living room. So I've been using that, and yeah, this is. I bought a few more pens, but we won't talk about them until I get them in.
Sure.
Yeah, that was my my nankak adventure. Really, really quite fun. But yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be doing this for all of my. Well, I want to do one in Raden, and I want to do one in Gold Powder.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So there's that. We also have some news because there's actually been quite a lot of news.
Yeah.
Let's just go in order. We have several Capless news. We have the Moonman Capless.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So We talked about that a few weeks or maybe even months ago because there was this teaser photo on some Chinese social media channel. And now the pen is out. It's called Moonman or Mahjong A1. And it is basically a Pilot Capless clone to the point that it's even compatible with Pilot's like nib units.
Right.
And I think they went too far. And what I mean by that, I'm not making a moral argument here. I'm not saying what I can and cannot do because I'm not qualified to do that. Instead, my argument is I have this pen. And I think many people already have this pen. But what I don't have is a capless in, say, raw brass or titanium or, cracked ice acrylic. I don't mind that they have created a capless pen. I just wish there was a color or a finish that I would be excited about rather than something that closely mimics what's already on the market and has been on the market for a long time.
Yeah, and we have a friend, Andy. Did he send you the comparison?
I've seen photos from a number of people, and it's very similar. And I saw this video showing just how compatible it is. So yeah, it very closely resembles what Pilot has. Actually, in the Etsy listing by whatever that seller is called, it only shows the matte black, but it's actually available in a few color options. But they all look very sort of Pilot-y. I think there's an orange one. There's things like a red one.
Right.
Like a white one. It looks like something that's already been on the market, and that's what I think it's this missed opportunity here. Because what we know with Moonman is that with a few exceptions, they do one release and that's it. Then it's on to the next model.
Right.
So I would love to see this in other colors and other materials, but I'm not optimistic about that actually happening.
So it says they were developing this for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. They look very Pilot-y. Like, I agree with you. I have a better version of this pen.
Yeah.
I think there are several things for me. First of all, I agree with you. I think if they did like a Moonman T1 style thing where they came out with a, brass version or something like that would be very, very cool. I would get more excited about that. So totally in alignment with you there. The second thing is, I think that, we'll see what Pilot does. The answer is probably nothing. But, on the moral part, and I've made my stance clear about this before. Pilot's patent on the design, if it's in effect, then Pilot is well within its rights to act accordingly, prevent the sale of these pens in international markets. Probably can't do anything within China, but that's just what it is. But if the patent has expired, it's really free game for anyone to use that design. And Moonman, I think they don't advertise outside of China, so I don't think they're actually gunning for the international market per se. What strikes me about this pen is that it's $20.
Yeah.
That's cheap. That's a third cheaper than the Curidas, which was supposed to be the cheap capless. And the Curidas didn't even work.
That's true. Yeah. I kind of want to try it, but not sure I would buy it. There's actually one reason though. There's actually one reason why I am excited about this release, but it doesn't have anything to do with the pen. Did you see that converter?
Yes, that was the second thing that I want to talk about. It has a Con 50 imitation, but dang, that is a reason to get the pen. And also, not only that, Jacob. I think it's also like the cartridges. They have cartridge stoppers. And like this is what we wanted Pilot to make, right? Like a better converter and cartridge stoppers. Like these are the
Yeah,
two
yeah,
things
yeah,
we wanted you to make. And for $20, honestly, a Con 50 costs about that much. So if they were compatible,
yeah.
I think it's actually worth it to buy it just for those two items.
Yeah, especially as if you search for Con 50 on like Mercari and Yahoo auctions, people
Yeah,
sell that for thousands of yen, right?
yeah.
Because
It's
you
more
can't buy
expensive in
them
Japan.
retail anymore.
And not only that, I think it also comes with like a carrying case for the
Mm,
cartridges. It just like has so much stuff. It's crazy.
mm,
But yeah, I mean, this is not a pen for me. I'm not a huge Capless fan to begin with,
mm.
but yeah, I'm looking at the comparisons between the real deal and the Moonman. But looks like it works. But you know,
Apparently, it dries out a bit faster than the capless. At least some of the Taobao commenters had said that.
yeah, and I think it's because of the trapdoor.
Mm,
Obviously, Pilot put a lot of time and resources into researching that trapdoor, so that doesn't
yeah.
really surprise me. But according to our friend at Rocks, her capless dries out super quickly too. So
Oh, really?
yeah, and you know what else is interesting about the comments is that even the Chinese people are like, hey, if you don't bring your quality up, we're gonna buy the Pilot one.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So that's the Moonman A1. They also have a Moonman T5, which is kind of like an Aurora 88. This one is interesting because this they're it's not in the show notes, sorry, but they are actually saying that um this is a metal body with yakitsuke urushi on it, baked lacquer on the
That
pen
would
body.
be okay. I didn't actually see that. That is a very interesting claim.
Yeah, look at Moonman T5. It's probably not like
Mm,
urushi, but
right.
it is a lacquer finish on a metal body.
And yeah, that one looks. I saw it. I wasn't interested enough to buy it, but it looked familiar.
Yeah. They also have different like types of nib, but these finishes aren't really for me. I'm not really gonna buy
Right.
it. And I have a bunch of auras that I really love.
Mm,
But they're not metal body with baked urushi.
right.
Or
Right.
not urushi but lacquer. Yeah. That's a movement. But on Capless news, Pilot released a new series of Caplesses.
Yeah, the Capless SE, which is basically, as far as I can tell, is the same acrylics or whatever you call it as that Custom Heritage SE that we talked about a few months ago. And I think we said at the time that the Custom Heritage SC was surprisingly expensive given that it was the relatively small nib number 5 size and it was like 30,000 yen.
Yep.
The same is true for this new Capless SE. So normally these store exclusive pens often go for around like 25,000 yen ish with some exceptions. This one is like 35,000 yen. No, 33,000 yen.
Mm-hmm.
So I like everything Pilot is doing here except for the price.
It's the same price as their cherry bamboo, and I think a little bit less expensive than stripe. Maybe even the same price as the stripe metal one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's actually more expensive than their annual limited edition series, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Do you think that's still going to come out?
I asked the Itoya staff about that very recently, and they said it's coming out, but we don't know when yet. So they are usually quite well informed, so I expect it to be one.
Right, right, right. I think it's it's pretty. They always do something very very cool, so I'm
Yes.
looking forward.
Yeah, those are, I'll say, like, probably the most interesting capless editions you can get, right? So I'm really looking forward to, as well, to this year's model.
Yep, for sure, for sure. And then we have some new Sailor inks. Before we talk about the new Sailor inks, I have a complaint. Sailor has been releasing too much new stuff. Too many things. Every week I see Sailor on the news, Sailor this new pen, Sailor that new pen, and I am kind of over it.
To your point, there's been one more Sailor release since we created the show notes just a few days ago.
Oh yeah, the Ebonite King of Pen, right?
Yes, yeah, they are firing on all cylinders. I agree. There's just too much of it right now. And while we are complaining about Sailor, I have one more complaint about Sailor, which is about their website. So let's say you want to know what the new releases are. So I'm going to Sailor's website right now trying to figure out what's new. Okay, so they have like one full page which is just like a header image, and then you have pick up whatever that is, and then you scroll down to product, and then you scroll down to more product details, and then you scroll down to web catalog, which is just another view into the products, and then you scroll down into events, and then you scroll down into event reports, and then you scroll down into movies, and finally, like 5 pages down, that's when you find the news.
Yeah, and it's just terrible advertising, terrible pictures too.
But I must say, and I'm usually not too excited about Sailor releases. I think they're doing something. I think they're doing the right thing with this ink release, because what we're talking about here is this new Yurameku, I think it's called. This,
Yep.
I think they're like 5, 6, no 8 new ink. I'm not sure if they are new or rebottled, but they look like a fun Yantan release, right? Because these are all chroma shading inks. And we know Sailor has done chroma shading inks in the past, 1, 2, 3. Ink Studio 1, 2, 3 is probably the most famous one. They have, the Athena
Right.
Ginkan and so on. The Ginkan is famously hard to get hold of. Sailor 1, 2, 3 is easy to get hold of, but the packaging is kind of boring. We talked before about, or at least I have said that when I buy, I think it's true for other people, when you buy a bottle of ink, it's not just the ink itself, but it's also, the packaging and the store. You kind of want it to be, you want it to be something special. A 1, 2, 3 is nothing, right? I'm excited about the way they package this, the names, the stories, the colors. I think they're doing everything right here, and I'm very excited about this release. What do you think?
I'm not a fan of the colors that they have. I think it's kind of just like dark and gloomy. Um, yeah, they all look like dark and gloomy, and it's also, these brands, they're so bad because they use the worst inks. I mean, sorry, no, the worst papers. They use the absolute worst papers. It's just like, guys, come on, like, I don't know what this looks like, and so I'm not sure that I'm like super excited about any of the inks per se. The bottles are the small bottles, though, right? They're small bottles, and how much are they?
I think they're 20 ml,
Yeah, and how much are they releasing
like
for in terms of price?
1600, yeah, 1600,
Yeah.
1700 yen.
So this bottle is more expensive than the Pilot Yoroshizuku, but half less than half the ink, which it doesn't really matter, right? Because I'm not going to use any like all of these.
Yeah, that I think is a non-issue, and I think we have probably talked about this before,
Yeah.
as with most topics. But there's a trend towards smaller and smaller ink bottles, because people they have like dozens, if not hundreds, of bottles, and they can't possibly use up all the ink.
It doesn't really matter, but it does kind of sit. It doesn't sit well with me. Like I wish this came in like the 50 ml bottles. Also because I think these smaller bottles in general are just kind of harder to store because they're just like these tiny little things. And I have like so many of them. So yeah. I might try the Byakuya. I think that looks.
That one looks like the lightest one. I'm more interested in that Kangyo, which looks like Athena Ginkan. So if this is a more accessible version of Athena Ginkan, I think that's going to be a hit. There were two things about the product description that I found somewhat interesting. One is that they say that these inks they perform well on all kinds of paper, while your normal chroma shading inks, I can't remember what they call them, they only work on very like high quality paper. So that they made a point about the fact that these don't require your high quality paper.
Right.
And another interesting point was, Sailor, it's in the company name. Fountain pens is their thing, right? But they're saying here that these are not just for fountain pens; they are for glass pens and dip pens. Obviously, it goes without saying, but it's interesting that they are pointing that out in the marketing copy.
Right. We'll see. I think these inks come out fairly soon, just in a few days. So we'll see. I don't know if I'll buy one. I'll probably try some in the stores first.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll settle down and maybe buy two and put them in a bigger bottle.
Yeah. Sounds like a good idea.
Still cheaper than Boombox.
Yeah, everything is. No. Boombox is still cheap compared to Yachting style.
That's right. All right. Next point. Again, continuing with the Sailor. I want to just blast through these, but they had this celebration of the 21K nib series. I don't even know what to call it, but it's a set of Pro Gear and Pro Gear King of Pen. And what's interesting about that release is that they are using the new logo finials on the pens. I have to say I like the old one better, but that might just be the get off my lawn inside of me.
What do you think about the nib engraving though?
I think it's a nonsense design. I don't really care for it, especially because I know that it's supposed to say 21. But I think this series is here to stay because they said this is the 2021 edition. I wonder if the year had anything to do with it because it's 21 and then 21 carat.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The nib engraving. Yeah, we talked about that on Instagram, right? And to me, it looks like it's like the CEO's granddaughter did a scribble and no one dares to say anything about it, right? It doesn't. That doesn't look that good. But there are some few things that are interesting about this release. So first of all, the price is actually the same price as your regular black and gold Pro Gear KOP.
And it does have some meta shine, right?
Yeah, so that's the other thing. When I saw the first photo on I think Sailor's Instagram account, it looked like, when you have like a low quality photo, like maybe it's like a blurry photo, and then you try to compensate by cranking up the contrast. Right. Then you're amplifying, you are emphasizing all of the noise as well, and that's what it looked like. So I thought it was just a black and gold pen, like a bad photo of a black and gold pen. But as you're saying, it's not actually black and gold. It is, they call it Sailor Blues. It's a blue, probably dark
like blue greenish color,
and it has, I think it has the same. I think it's called a glass flake, and which
they call it meta shine here. I'm reading the press release.
Right.
It's like meta shine glass particles.
Yeah, and I think that is the same thing as you remember that Usagia Capless from earlier this year. I think it's the same technique. So you're getting a KOP or a Pro Gear. At least in case of the KOP, it's the same price as the black and gold one, but it's blue, and you got a custom nib engraving, I should say, and you get a little bit of like glitter sparkle. I think it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's okay, and if you really hate the logo, you can probably just polish it off because it looks laser engraved.
But I remember you were lamenting recently the lack of KOPs with interesting custom nibs, and here's a custom nib engraving on a KOP.
Yeah, but I want it in a zoom.
Yeah, you can't have that here.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right. Yeah, and it's a pretty good price, limited to 500. But I have a problem with the theme. I mean, like, celebrating the 21K gold nib. Like, what? It's just like, have we ran out of things to celebrate now? Have you been using the 21 karat gold nib for years? You didn't celebrate it. So, I think the theme it's just kind of weak for me.
Yeah, especially since, again, going back to what we said before about how they're releasing just too many pens. This release just got lost, I think.
Yeah, and people didn't know what it was about and had no proper story behind it.
Yeah.
Speaking of no proper story, this ebonite carved fountain pen.
Yeah, it was hard to tell from the photos again. This is another theme. It's hard to tell from the photos what's actually going on here. I think Que made a point on Instagram that it looks a bit like that Mars and Athena pen, which it did from the photos. I'm not sure if that's true when you see them in person. But it's like a black resin and ebonite pen, and the ebonite part has some kind of pattern to it, right?
So I'm looking at the Sailor press release. There are 3 pens in the series. The Yogazumi, which looks like a poorly done Ichime finish, because the finish is not flush with the trims. And then there's like a metal part, and then there's like the acrylic threads, and then there's like the plastic with a regular size nib. And then the second one is Yako, which I think is probably one of the cooler ones. It's again, black, kind of looks unfinished. I think this looks faceted, and they kind of engrave these little circles into the faceted tracks. And I think that's kind of cool as a concept, but again, the pictures look like somebody drew polka dots on a Photoshop. So, have no idea what this looks like. And then the third one confuses me. The third one is Yokaze, and this is like Sailor's response to the Kung Fu, but looks like somebody took a knife and stabbed the ebonite a few times, or a few hundred times, and it's only on the body. It's not on the end finial, and the whole release is strange.
Yeah, and the strangeness doesn't end there, because they also released 3 inks, and as far as I can tell, they're all
black,
like gray blackish inks. Like, come on,
they're all black inks.
You can have any color as long as it's black. Yeah,
and it's $800. It's $800, Jacob.
$800 with the standard nib, and not just the sight, but the engraving, which makes me wonder, going back to the previous release, what is the criteria for a custom nib engraving?
Oh, but Jacob, you got it all wrong, because look at the packaging they have. They have a special spot for your converter.
That makes up for it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one. Next Sailor, King of Pen Anniversary. So for a third year, they're using the Nico Ebonite, colored Nico Ebonite. And
so where are we now? Is it the green one?
The green one.
Okay.
I think the color is pretty good, but after Nagahara left, if you compare it to the regular Ebonite King of Pens now, which all have Naginata grinds on them, it's like a $2,000 pen, right? I don't know. Like, for me, it's called Ryokyo, and we still see the Koen in shops today. They've not sold particularly well after Nagahara left. People got the Kaiha almost purely because Nagahara did like most of the grinds, right?
I would think so, right? At least, that would be the reason for me to buy the original one, yeah.
So it's confusing, because they say that the nibs come in MF, M, and B, and a lot of people thought that these were the regular nibs, but they are actually the Naginata nibs. They have a serial number, and it's limited to 400. I have to say, like, if I were to buy a King of Pen Ebonite, first of all, there's no way I would buy the black one. if they cost exactly the same. I would buy one of these.
Right.
But I do feel like this is, I don't know, what's the pull for me to buy one of these unless I'm a completionist?
Yeah, but yeah, I agree. I mean, it does look nice, I believe. It doesn't look 200,000 yen nice, at least not to me. Especially now, like talking about Naginata Togi, it's easier than ever to get a pen with a Naginata Togi grind nowadays.
But not on the King of Pen.
That's true, though, yeah, because you can't buy like a Zoom-ish.
No. If they did, they would be out of it.
Maybe that's why we don't see any KOP Zooms.
But sorry, you were saying?
It's still, I mean, ignoring the KOP size, it's easier than ever to get a Naginata Togi. So I think the appeal of a Sailor Naginata Togi is not quite what it was in the past, and I think we can also see that on second-hand markets. These Sailor Naginata Togis are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper on the second-hand markets because the supply is more. There's much more of it than before.
Yeah.
Yes, I think for this pen you would buy it because of the ebonite pattern. And to be fair, I don't think
it's a nice pattern.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen this ebonite before. It's presumably done by Nico Ebonite, but maybe they have an exclusive on it.
No, the pattern is beautiful. This is a beautiful pen. You know what would make it worth this money? I mean, worth is subjective, right? But you know what would make it so that I would be more amenable to this is if they did it in Japanese eyedropper.
So they need to talk to Kanezaki-san then.
Well, I mean, come on, they're a huge company. Like, they can develop something. They've made Japanese eyedroppers in the past, way back when. But at least if it were a Japanese eyedropper, I could see like more historical value in it. But as it stands, it's kind of like, okay, you released like, was it like 6 things in the last 14 days? You release something every 2 days.
Yeah, they're really firing on all cylinders. I think that they're doing. You would want them to focus their efforts on a few really good models instead.
And now I don't even know what I need to buy from them, right? Like, do I buy the inks? Do I buy, I think they just timed it all wrong, and it's splitting the market. It's splitting their market, and they're not giving the consumers enough time to breathe, which is what I think is so smart about Shishikura's releases. I mean, they're with Sailor too, yes, but she does like maybe 2 a year. And they all go gangbusters. They sell out, right? Whereas you have here, it's like, okay, you made so many pens. I just wonder, like, is this their answer to the lack of profitability? Like, how are they gonna get profitable if they have so many things? And again, as you said a few episodes ago, you actually say this in quite a lot of episodes. We thought they were gonna clean up their lineup.
Yeah, they did it for a moment, but then they went the other direction.
Yeah. All right. Last thing, which we won't spend too much time about. It's the Tohma 4-time music. Did you see this on his Instagram?
I don't know. Yeah, I think I said it. The tines look kind of funny, right? They were not all the same length.
So I had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Tohma today, and the middle tine is actually longer. If you go to Tohma Pens, it's actually just the second one. I had the opportunity to try this pen. It's a crazy pen. I mean, it's not done yet, so I'm not going to say too much more, but I had a very interesting afternoon with Mr. Tohma. This pen has some ink flow issues at the moment, which he's trying to solve, but I have to say, this is, if you're a fan of broad nibs, this nib, incredible. I like how he's taking kind of Kubo-san's ideas and driving them forward as well, because Kubo did these 4-time music nibs in the past. So I really, really appreciate that. So for the full story on Tohma pens, listen to the next episode.
Sounds good. End with a cliffhanger.
All right. And with that, I believe that's the episode, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I think that's it. We've covered a lot this episode.
Yep. All right then. With that being said, my name is CY. You can find me on my website at tokyostationpens.com, on Instagram and TikTok at tokyostationpens, and on Twitter at tokyostationmnh.
And my name is Jacob, and I'm a Fudefan on Instagram and on Twitter. I have a blog at fudefan.com.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.